question today, is the hobby dying? On this show, we have Stephen Atwell, Ralph Renzetti, myself, Steve Brown, and of course our host, Andy Crawford, and that's coming at you right now.
All right, so we've been talking about is the hobby dying, and we're returning to that topic again in this show. So let's see. So we were talking about, and we'd like to return back to the vendor statistics and vendor numbers, because that seems like a really meaningful impact into the future of the hobby. And I think Stephen Atwell's got some impact on that with his relationship with vendors. What are you thinking about that?
This waiting Andy out's not going to work this time, huh? Because he called me out specifically.
He called Joe.
See, I think everyone screams and yells about the pre-order. Everyone, everybody wants the pre-order now. Oh, we used to be able to go to the shop and we didn't have to pre-order this or we didn't have to pre-order that. The funny part is, I don't really think much has changed with the manufacturing there. It's just people aren't walking into shops and buying things in shops anymore, which means the shops aren't pre-ordering it for you. It wasn't that 10 years ago, the shop, somebody was pre-ordering that item, and either the shop was pre-ordering it with expected sales. We do that all the time. We look at an item that comes out and say, oh, that item, I think we're going to sell 24 of those in 6 months. I'm going to order 24 of those, or I think I'm going to sell 40 of those in 6 months. I'm going to order 40 of them. That doesn't mean I had 40 pre-orders from individuals. You just have to have a hobby shop that actually wants to learn about their clientele and be willing to make a guess at it. The manufacturers were not blanket saying, I hope I sell 1 million of these things, 1 million widgets. I'm going to make 1 million widgets. They need some number to justify that. Intermountain is pretty clear about all of their stuff now. They changed their website recently, and well, maybe not super recently, and it says on the column next to everything, we have enough pre-orders to make this. We don't have enough pre-orders to make this. Here's the whole process written down. Atlas sort of does the same thing. Once they announce a model, it's pretty much being made, but they'll show you the whole production line process and where it is in line on their website. But it's not that the individual modeler necessarily needs to pre-order every single thing that they want. I know that if a 4750 covered hopper in a BNSF scheme comes out that's going to be around $18, I should put a bunch of them in stock because Steve Brown's going to buy 18 of them.
I'm going to buy 18.
Yeah. It's on the hobby shops more so than it is on the individual to learn their clientele and be able to stock for the clientele that they have and the customers that they have.
So is it your instinct, and this is the instinct that I'm personally challenged about. Is it your instinct that they're basically making the same number of locomotives as they were some number of years ago? Let's not go back to the 60s or 70s, but a decade ago. Are they ultimately making about the same number of locomotives, about the same number of rolling stock?
I think they are probably making about the same number of locomotives and rolling stock. I think let's talk about locomotives. I think how it's divided up, because they've got to make a certain number of that mold, but how it's divided up between DC, DCC, and DCC with sound, those numbers are skewing over time. And you look at production runs, Kato just had that Union Pacific Spirit of the Union Pacific locomotive that came out in scale. That thing, there wasn't a ton of pre-orders on it. We pre-ordered 24 of them because I looked at it and said, I think those are going to do really well. We pre-ordered 24 of, I think, DC and DCC, and we sold out of them within 2 weeks. And that was standard across the entire hobby shop industry. You could not find one. Well, you could go to eBay and they were selling for $300, $400, $500 for a DC or DCC model, which is insane. And partially why Kato looked at that and said, we need to do a new run of this. And so they're doing a new run and have encouraged people to pre-order. But hobby shops are going to look at that now and say, okay, there is enough market there that we should be getting. If somebody's still willing to pay $450 for this, that is not being driven up by one person. It takes two to tango on eBay. There is a group of people, minimum two, that are driving the price up that high because they want this model again.
Yeah, see, I think pre-orders are ultimately. I have a weird opinion, and I fight with other people or disagree with people about this. I think pre-ordering from the customer, direct pre-ordering, and that direct relationship, the way Scale Trades, for example, has that direct relationship, whatever, gives them that impact, that information back from their customers to make the right decision, which could potentially lower prices for us. It may not be. It may just be a profit incentive. But if they order the correct number of SD40s versus the incorrect number versus correct or incorrect numbers of SD60s. If they make too many SD40s and they've got a bunch of those that they have to liquidate, but they make too few SD60s, the price has to go up to compensate for that. And if they can get the right number and the right balance, then they can get the price lower and not have to cover that lost potential revenue overhead. So pre-ordering can be positive for us end consumers potentially.
But I don't think so. I think in a brilliant world, yes, but I think that's a flawed look at it. Go ahead, Ralph. Sorry.
It's optimistic.
You guys are talking pre-order, and when I say pre-order, I'm talking about the guy that walks into the hobby shop and adds his name to a list. It's not that he's personally going to the manufacturer and say, "I want to order this." He's on a list that the hobby shop orders. I use Rapido again because they're local to me. They brought out a line of passenger cars, 1954 heavyweights with the CN livery on it. And I got 3 cars out of an 8-car set because I couldn't afford to buy them all at the same time or one right after the other. And when I was ready to buy the next one, they weren't available anymore.
Yeah.
Because they had already been bought up. Whereas I can remember when I first got into the hobby, I could go and buy a ton of Burlington Zephyr fluted sidecars today or whenever it was, and go 2 months later and buy some more, and another month later and buy some more. Because the hobby shop had them on the shelf. You say that the manufacturer hasn't really changed the pre-order. I don't know. I sort of agree with what you said, but I can't see it. And with the latest pre-order, whether you do it on your own with the manufacturer or you do it with a hobby shop, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yes.
And the only other place you're going to get it is, like you said, on eBay.
I hate to throw my own personal wrench into this, but to be as candid as I can be, I'm sitting over here. I'm on Model Railroad, and about 90% of what you guys are talking about, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. No freaking clue.
No,
when we start, and I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but we start talking Zephyr this and bulk loader that and pre-order this and that. Honestly, when I say I'm a regular guy Model Railroad, I swear to God, I'm a regular guy. I see a locomotive that looks cool and I buy it.
Okay. That's cool.
Is what it is. But now the downside of that is I have a box of locomotives that are crap that I shouldn't have bought. Okay. To be real. But I just be honest with you. Sometimes I think, and I can get technical too. When we start talking about some of this sort of back end stuff, I think you might lose people. It might be like, there's too much to know, or it's too technical, it's too nerdy, it's too geeky, or something, and they lose it. I mean, the reality is, honestly, I have 5 grain hoppers. They're gray. They're about that big. I could not tell you who made them. I don't know who made them. They looked cool, and I liked the color, so I bought them.
Yeah,
is where I'm at. So I really, without slamming any of you guys and saying, you guys, you're wasting my time, because you're not. There might be people like me that just don't track with all of this right now. That to that level of detail.
So I guess what trying to boil mine down would be that the manufacturers are still putting the cars out. They're not as easily findable on your local hobby shelves, because the local hobby shelves may not be there anymore because we're shopping in different methods.
Copy that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Copy that.
So people use that as a gauge of the hobby dying. Oh, manufacturers aren't even willing to do a big run anymore. And it's like, it's manufacturers, I believe, has always produced off of pre-orders. There are fewer hobby shops. They're starting. There are fewer hobby shops than there were. That is absolutely true, but the cars are still going somewhere. The cars are still going to Midwest Model Railroad. The cars are still going to Train World. The cars are still going to a Lombard Hobby. They're just centralized now and being distributed in another method.
Sure.
The difference I see between now and back in the day when I first started, things like this weren't available.
No.
I mean, here's a smart car, and the detail that's on this is absolutely phenomenal. The cars you used to get didn't have a bottom on them. They were open. There's another one. I originally thought this was a Volvo. It's not. It's a Skoda. But irregardless, the detail that's in this thing, it has rubber tires on it. The mag wheels are open. It's amazing. The stuff that you get nowadays, compared to what was available.
Yeah, and
so let's say in the 70s, there's a Jaguar, if it'll focus.
Yeah, and touching on that, you look at like an Intermountain. Like when I was a kid, if I'd go to buy a 4750 grain hopper, I could choose between one of 6 railroads.
Mm-hmm.
But there would be stacks of 20 of them in every local hobby shop of those 6 railroads. Now, Intermountain makes, when I think they did an announcement about their 4750 last year, and this was prior to the industry having its factory issue. There were 48 or something. There were like 48 different railroads available. And like, obviously they can't produce the same number of Union Pacific as they do Missouri and Southern Arkansas or whatever, Go ahead, Rob.
Also the difference in their manufacturing too. Back in the day, they also did, let's say, a GP9. And they didn't change any of the features on it, but they put it out under 6 different road names.
Yeah.
And it may not have been correct for 5 of them. But because they had the body shell, and they had one, a GP9, they put it out with their livery on it. Nowadays, when it comes out, every road is specific, and it has specific details to that road, which is a bonus for us modelers.
And I don't disagree with Steve Brown that's saying that there are a considerable number of modelers, and especially if the hobby is not going to die, we want to encourage the people who are entering the hobby. They're not going to be concerned about this, but they are going to feel some of the impact when they can't find things that they're looking for. These are some of the reasons why this causes a problem. And then as they get more serious, it's a problem that I personally experience. And a lot of the reason that I don't buy, that I build the vast majority of what I want, is because I run into the same problem. I've got a Norfolk and Western passenger car. I've got a couple of them, and I can't complete the set. And then whatever I build is going to vary in some way. So I've just committed to, I'm going to have to build every one of those cars so that I know that I can end up with that because of the lack of availability or the inconsistency of production. But there is a benefit trade-off in the road-specific detail. Those trade-offs do impact, but there's so many new people or more serious guys in the hobby because of the internet and the information sharing that these guys can get very specific about what they want because the information is out there to figure out exactly what they care about in the hobby. That's why I think there's a rise in the RPM modelers and such.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually with Steve Brown on most of this. Like, I will still walk into a hobby store, and I look at a model on the thing, and I don't care if it's not road specific. I don't even care if it's wrong. If I like the look of the model, I end up buying the model.
Right.
If the window shape is slightly wrong on, I'm never going to be that close to the window anyways, and I could care less. And there's a big group in the hobby that might be like, oh, blah blah blah. It doesn't have
that's another topic.
A right style, something, this, that, or the other thing, and I just don't care.
I don't care.
I'm happy to have it on the layout. I'm happy to have it moving. Looks good to me. Good to go.
Copy that.
Yeah, I think I think without beating the dead horse here, I think we've agreed for the most part, or at least thoroughly discussed this topic of, is the hobby dying? And we've all kind of come to the same conclusion,
It's not.
started with the same conclusion. It's not dying. It is changing.
It's absolutely.
You know, in the industry that I work and with sales and working with these vendors and working with all these customers, you know, we talk about the local hobby shop going away. Midwest Model Railroad's actually doing the opposite. We know what our core market is. We know that 99% of our sales are going to go out through the back door in cardboard boxes. But just today, I got a bunch of update photos from our staff of the build out of the new store. And so it's just an adaptation of people into modern day standards and modern day practices. You can't have a print magazine anymore that's going to scream the hobby is dying when people aren't consuming print anymore. It's not the hobby dying, the print is dying.
Copy.
You can't have an organization that's screaming the hobby is dying when they're refusing to do anything to actually keep up with the hobby.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's just a lot of things
That's where I'm at.
that are part of our hobby that are disappearing, but they are not the hobby that is disappearing.
You know, if we're throwing sort of pseudo final thoughts out there, here's what I'll say. I don't think we necessarily in perpetuity need to be talking about is the hobby dying and answering all that and all this alarmist crap. But one of the things I do enjoy about a topic like this is it gives us an opportunity to talk about things that might be barriers, things that are just a reality check, things on where is our barometer going to be on whether the hobby's dying or successful or whatever, because I know, and you guys know, well, you really know that manufacturers watch these shows. There are people that pay attention to what's being said here, and that will have an influence on them. And we would hope a positive influence on the kinds of products, the volume of products, and the pricing of products. And on pricing of products, I've got one small detour to say, and that is if people are buying less and less stuff, then they've got to cover their overhead. The prices are going to go up and up just to cover that. And eventually, at some point, there's an impasse.
Yeah.
They're selling a brand new in-scale locomotive for $20,000 because they got to make their rent payment.
It'll start coming back.
So I think it's just like it happens in the American economy. It goes like this. It ebbs and flows. I think people coming into the hobby, not coming into the hobby, ebbs and flows. But it is too awesome, especially now, of a hobby with all of the stuff we get to do in this hobby. It's just way too awesome to die. And after this show, I don't know that I will ever address that topic again because it's a non-starter. It's not dying. It won't die.
Here's my thoughts. It is dying for the older guys that don't want to change.
The old
that's where it's dying. The guys that don't want to be part of the social media, what do you call it? Like the internet and so on. They won't even have, some of them don't even have an email address for that matter. So I'm one of the older guys, but I consider myself a little bit more modern. And I'm open to everything. So to me, it's not dying, but I think for the older guys that don't want to change, those are the guys that it's dying for.
And I don't think that has to be an age. Age is not even necessarily the right constraint. Email was, as a 1980 technology. If you're not willing to adapt to that, let alone the social media,
exactly,
you're not going to adapt to all these changes that happen in the hobby and in all kinds of other parts of your life. I feel for these guys that don't want to adapt and recognize the changes in the hobby, for how in the world they deal with a car these days with Bluetooth and all the other technology. And it's a hobby that they care so very much about. If they are as passionate about the hobby as I am and love it as much as I am excited and enthused about all the new stuff that's happening. Technology or outside of technology, granted that I do have a passion in technology, but even all the other things that I don't have a passion about specifically, I love the hobby and am enthusiastic. The only thing about my last statement about the thing is I do probably think reality that we are a stable hobby. It has a long future in it. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity to increase the hobby, to grow the hobby, to impact and to enthuse and excite new members coming into the hobby, or to take some of the people who are initially interested in the hobby and to continue to escalate their interest and enthuse them and not run them away from the hobby. Get them to grow in the hobby is a great opportunity. The hobby grows as a whole for all of us, and we all benefit. There's more passenger cars on the shelf if other people are buying products and supporting the vendors and the resellers that are making the hobby, that all these great products are available because of. So I support those. I support the hobby shops and the local vendors. I want the hobby to be the stable hobby that I've enjoyed and am passionate about. And I'm enthusiastic about trying to help other people grow in the hobby and support them at whatever level and however much they care about road-specific details or not. I just want you to enjoy the hobby, be happy, and be entertained at the end of the day with your hobby.
That's what it's all about, having fun.
So thanks everyone for enjoying this topic with us, following along with the state of the hobby and is the hobby dying and our influence, our impact, and our opinions about that topic. Look for a different topic in the next show.
Hi, this is Big Bill coming to you from YouTube Model Builders. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion tonight that we presented to you. Please tune in next Friday after 3 p.m. when we will post another discussion on model railroad views. Thank you for watching. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you on the radio.